Ooh la la, it's playoff pick'em time. Let's dive in and see who I've got qualifying to Masters Toronto, but not in EMEA because EMEA are a week behind, so they're in their final week, and so I just thought I'd show you the standings where we are right now. Actually, all of the playoff teams are decided. It's just seeding that we're talking about for EMEA, but Team Heretics play Fnatic, so that's a battle for first place here, and Team Vitality play Na'Vi, so that's a battle between third and fourth, and you'll see the importance of those later on in the video when we do the brackets. Over in Group Omega, it is quite close, right? There's a lot to play for. Again, the playoffs are decided. But out of these four teams, you know that a lot of different things could happen here in terms of who's going to finish where and all of that. Kami Core can't finish first because Foot and BBL play each other, so it is between kind of Foot, BBL, and Team Liquid for who's going to take that top spot. But Kami Core could rise above some of these other teams, you know, and not finish in fourth place. So with that said, let's dive into the pick'ems then, and we've got BBL versus Foot, which, as I said, I mean, this is a game that might not mean anything if Team Liquid beat Kami Core, but if Kami Core can win, these teams, you know, do then have some chances. I'm personally going to go for Foot because I think that they are a slightly better team and have been, obviously they did get destroyed by Team Liquid, but I think Liquid were playing very well that day, and otherwise Foot have been, you know, a pretty solid, dependable team, as they tend to be, so I will go for Foot. A game that means absolutely nothing is Giants versus Apex. I did think that Giants looked better with their changes, and I think that those changes will get them over the line. So I'm going to go for Giants in this one. Koi versus Gentlemates, another meaningless game. I think Koi are just in the complete bin right now. I think probably the vibes are very bad, so I'm going to go for Gentlemates just there. Then you got Team Vitality versus Na'Vi. Now, again, this is one of those games that does mean something, but I think that Team Vitality will obviously have a bit too much there for Na'Vi. Team Liquid versus Kami Core. Now, these last two games here are kind of, I suppose, the most important games, because if Team Liquid beat Kami Core, you know, that kind of decides everything in that group. But if Kami Core can win this, as I said, it opens up an opportunity for both BBL and Foot, whoever has won that game. I don't think Kami Core have got it in them. Personally, I think the Team Liquid are playing like a very, very good team right now. If I was doing a pick'em for an EMEA playoff bracket, I think Team Liquid would be a team that I would have going to Masters Toronto. I think they're looking in pretty good form. And Fnatic versus Team Heretics, you know, arguably the biggest game. Obviously, two big teams, both 4-0. Should be a very interesting game, right? Personally, I'm on the Team Heretics train. I think that, you know, I'm liking the way that they're looking. I think that Fnatic, you know, as Giants kind of showed, you know, do have some weaknesses in there, but, you know, are still a very good team, but I'm going to go for Team Heretics. Okay, now let's move on to Pacific, and obviously we've got a playoff bracket to pick. Now, just to quickly show you, like, the 1 seeds, they only need to win this game, right? If you get to the upper final, you have made Masters Toronto. You basically need to get to the upper or lower final, which is why seeding does matter, because these teams only need to win 1 game here, Boom and RRQ, whereas if you're Nongshim or Paper Eggs, you have to win 3 games, right, without losing 1. You have to win 3 in a row. So seeding definitely does matter, and you know, these two teams have a very hard path to actually making it to Masters Toronto there. But let's talk about these games. Talon versus Gen G. I think that Talon obviously coming off a big win. Gen G are coming off a loss against DRX. I put Gen G number 1 in my power rankings, okay? So I'm a Gen G believer. And Talon tend to win and then lose. That's what they tend to do, go win, loss, win, loss. So I am going to go for Gen G. Even though I do think this is like a 55-45, there's absolutely nothing wrong with picking Talon. I know Platcheck guaranteed it. I think that's a pretty bad guarantee, if I'm being honest. But I am a big Gen G believer, so I'm sticking with it. DRX versus T1. I was kind of shocked when I saw that 3 people on Platcheck picked T1. I could not believe that at all, because T1 haven't played a good game this entire stage. And I know they won Masters, and I know that people will just think, oh, they're going to lock in for playoffs, and maybe they will. I just think they're coming up against a team who is better than them. Well, at least right now, right? I think that right now, DRX are playing some good stuff, even with having to change their roster and roles around and stuff. I think that they're playing pretty well. They just beat Gen G. I think, like, if T1 were playing a team that, you know, weren't that great, then that's fine. But, you know, they could have kind of found their feet and kind of stumbled through it. But DRX, I mean, DRX for most of this season have been better than T1, right? They won Pacific Kickoff as well. It was just Masters Bangkok that they weren't, and they've been better throughout the entire group stage. So I'm picking DRX, and I actually feel pretty decent about that. Let's go to the lowest. Talon versus Nongshim. This is where Talon continue their win-loss thing, and I think they beat Nongshim just there. Haven't been fully convinced by Nongshim just yet, even though they beat Zeta. T1 versus Paper X. Luckily for T1, they are playing a team that isn't that great. And unfortunately for Paper X, there kind of is no good. Like, whoever loses this game out of DRX T1, I mean, that's a pretty rough opponent to have to get here in lower round 1. So I will go for T1 just there, and the 4 seeds do get eliminated. Boom versus Gen G. As I said, I mean, I'm just a Gen G believer. There's nothing else I can say. I just think in these crucial moments, I'm going Gen G. I know Boom, like, that's rough. But we'll get to Boom later on, right? We'll get to Boom later on. DRX versus RRQ. Again, RRQ coming off a pretty disappointing loss to Team Secret, of course. And this is where I think just like the experience of Gen G and DRX will shine through. I know it's boring to have Gen G and DRX go through, but I really do think that they will just find a way in these games. And they will qualify for Masters there. We'll come to the lowers, RRQ versus Talon. And this is where I'm predicting the full RRQ choke. And Talon kind of take their candy from them. And Talon managed to win that game. And RRQ have a classic RRQ. Finish first in the group, choke in the playoffs, you know, choke when it matters, and go out. And then Boom versus T1. Look, Sentinels won Masters Madrid, and they didn't go to the second Masters. And I think that that's going to happen here as well. I think Boom are going to beat T1 and go to lower round 3. And then we'd end up with this, Gen G versus DRX in the upper final. We've just seen DRX beat Gen G, so I'll pick DRX. And then you've got Talon versus Boom here for kind of that last spot. And look, Boom believers, you Boom bros, you would have had me as, oh no, he's a Boom doubter. I'm not a Boom doubter. Boom are going to this tournament, okay? Boom are going. They're going to lose in the lower final. They're going to go as a 3 seed, but they're going to go, okay? And in the grand final, it's going to be DRX again. They will beat Gen G, and they will win the Pacific tournament for the second time this year. And then we'll finish here with Americas. Now, there's some tough games here in Americas as well. Again, for NRG and EG, it's going to be a long road and a short road by my pick'em. So, MIBR against 100 Thieves. I just think that MIBR have looked like a consistently better team than 100 Thieves. I'm sure most people will be picking MIBR in this game, and I think they'll be picking MIBR for pretty good reason, because they're a better team. The much harder game, I think, to pick is Sentinels versus Cloud9. This is a game that I think is a real coin flip. An actual coin flip. Cloud9 have probably played slightly better overall, you know, during the stage, I would say. But Sentinels, you know, have more experience than them. They'll have the crowd buff as well, of course, for a playoff game here. So it's a very tough game, I think, overall. But I'm going to slightly lean on the experience. Again, kind of similar to DRX and Gen G. I'm going to slightly lean for Sentinels in that kind of crucial game. 100 Thieves versus NRG. Ooh, well, NRG did probably play their best game overall, but I'm still not really that convinced. I mean, I think getting an NA team for NRG is pretty good, because the way they might win is this team gets, like, the other team gets overhyped in a playoff game and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think we've seen more from 100 Thieves, to be honest, and so I am gonna pick them, but I don't feel great about it. Cloud9 are way better than EG. That one I need no thought into. Crew versus MIBR. Again, I think MIBR have just been a better team overall. I think they're just fundamentally a bit better than Crew right now. Though I do think this would be a close game if we did get to this. So I will go for MIBR just there, and they will be a qualified team. And G2, my mantra with G2 is just always pick G2. And maybe I'll be wrong like a couple times this year, but for the most part, you're gonna get everything right. And could Sen give them a game? Could Sen win that game? Yeah, sure. But I think G2 are just a little bit better than Sen, basically, in most aspects. So, yeah, I'm picking G2. No surprise there. Sen versus 100 Thieves. Sen have just been better than 100 Thieves. And Crew versus Cloud9, again, could be close. But I'm going to go Cloud9 again. I really do think that this will be the game that decides it will be this initial game. I feel pretty strongly about that, to be honest. These are the teams on the precipice, if you want, and then it's very close. We'll come to the uppers, and again, my philosophy with G2 is very, very simple. We've seen MIBR play a close game against them. Could they beat G2? Yeah, they could. We've seen that they almost did, but I'm still just going to stick with G2 because it's G2, and I'm not going to doubt them. And then we'd come to this game, Sen versus Cloud9, and could Cloud9, you know, undo this and manage to win? Maybe. Like, they could. It wouldn't shock me if they did. And at this point, they would have won 2 games. They would be feeling good. And there is a real possibility that, you know, they could run it back. But again, I'm gonna lean on, like, you know, it just seems to happen, like, where Sen are just gonna pull it through and win those games. So I am gonna have G2, MIBR, and Sen going, which I suppose isn't that big of a shock. From here, I'll go MIBR win the lower final, but again, G2 managed to win the grand final just there. And that will be my America's Pick'em. So overall, I'm gonna have DRX, Gen G, and Boom, and G2, MIBR, and Sen as my Masters Toronto teams.